Welcome back to Boy Party's 25 for 25, where I count down the 25 best films of the last 25 years, one film per director. We've reached number 8 on the list. It's Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom. Wes Anderson, undoubtedly one of the most sort of definitive American filmmakers of this century, although obviously his big breakout was towards the end of the last century. Rushmore is a late 90s film. He is really a director, I think, that's defined the last 25 years. I mean, he's been pumping out films very regularly all through the 2000s, 2010s, and now the 2020s. An incredibly high hit rate for me. I think almost all of his films are sort of fantastic to masterpiece quality, with a few sort of minor duds in the middle. But I would obviously, like many people, struggle to pick a Wes Anderson film to put on this list. It is hard to choose just one. If the director rule didn't apply, he may have had 2 or 3 films in the top 25. But for me, the choice of what is my favorite of his films, and definitely my favorite of his films from this century, is pretty clear. And it's Moonrise Kingdom from 2012. You've got The Royal Tenenbaums in 2001, a very strong contender as well. Fantastic Mr. Fox, absolutely. The Grand Budapest Hotel. For me, those are the other top tier Wes movies from this century. Also in the mix, The Life Aquatic, The Darjeeling Limited, Isle of Dogs, The French Dispatch, Asteroid City, The Phoenician Scheme just came out this past year, and then the Netflix Wonderful World of Henry Sugar shorts. I would say for me, the weakest of his films, probably Isle of Dogs. It's lovely, it's nice, it's warm, it's nothing particularly special that I've ever cared to revisit. I wasn't really won over by the Henry Sugar stuff on Netflix. Asteroid City doesn't work for me. I know a lot of people that really, really loved it, that I really connected with. Didn't do much for me. Darjeeling and Life Aquatic have never been my favorites, but I have a lot of time for The French Dispatch, and definitely The Phoenician Scheme this year I thought was quite wonderful in a lot of ways. But none of them are Moonrise Kingdom, which is such a special film, such a beautiful, gorgeous, singular object. So many of Wes Anderson's films are about adults who behave like children, about the sort of weird blurred line that exists between childlike behavior and pretending to be an adult. You've got The Royal Tenenbaums, which is of course about these kind of siblings who you initially meet as children, and then they grow up being played by these adult actors, but a lot of their childish sort of dynamics still are very present, and you see how those manifest in adult environments where things like sexuality are introduced into the mix, and suddenly they have to reckon with that. Moonrise Kingdom in many ways inverts that. It's about children trying to be adults. It's about 2 kids who are far too young to be sort of embracing the maturity that they are attempting to embrace as they try and run off together as lovers, inspired by, I suppose, a very traditional, maybe somewhat French idea of romance in terms of the music that they're listening to and some of the behavior. But they kind of ultimately, I think, have to reckon with the fact that they are a bit too young to be living this wild romantic lifestyle, and they might need to wait a few years before they can fully embrace this fantasy. But there is real love between them, and there is a real incredible connection between the 2 leads of this film, which I'll go into in a moment. So this film was released in 2012. It, I believe, would have premiered at Cannes and came out in Ireland about a month later, in June of 2012. I went to see it with my father in Galway and absolutely adored it. Thought it was really, really wonderful. I'd been into Wes Anderson for a few years at this point. My parents had shown me Rushmore and Tenenbaums in probably 2008, 2009, and then I saw Fantastic Mr. Fox in the cinema. So this is my second Wes Anderson I was seeing upon release, and I feel very lucky that I was encouraged to get into him as a teenager. A lot of my friends sort of came to him later in life, but I think being a Wes Anderson fan as a young teen is a very special thing because of that transitional thing from childhood to adulthood that his films are often about. I think that really strikes a chord when you're sort of 13, 14 and you're looking for things to connect with. And this film connected with me so strongly. I'm roughly the same age as the kids in the movie I was when it came out. And although they are behaving somewhat kind of, they're not necessarily real world grounded characters. They are somewhat, as in many Wes Anderson films, very heightened and almost cartoonish in a lot of the behavior. I do think there's a lot to connect to in their sort of pre-adolescent instincts and behaviors in this film. So I loved it. I've loved it ever since. I think it's an incredible, incredible film, hence its place on this list. It's very, very special to me. The two kids in this film are just so wonderful. They are played by Jared Gilman, who plays Sam, and Cara Hayward, who plays Susie. Now, Jared Gilman has become sort of a modern folk hero of film Twitter. He is very present online. He has a great presence. He seems like a lovely guy, really into cinema. I've interacted with him here and there online. Great guy. Cara Hayward has sort of, I guess, been a little bit more under the radar, but the two of them actually reunite on screen in a very brief scene in Jim Jarmusch's movie Patterson, where they play passengers on the bus that Adam Driver's character is driving around, which is really fun. And Cara also has a small role in Manchester by the Sea and in the Jordan Peele movie Us. So these guys are both around. Two incredible breakout performances, though. I mean, Wes Anderson is very good at casting young actors, as you've seen most recently with Mia Thrappleton in The Phoenician Scheme, but these two guys are incredible. They have such weird vibes that really work. I mean, he's got this incredibly warm, kind face, and she's got this kind of sort of glazed over look where you can tell that there's maybe some strange and weird things going on behind her eyes, but really, really mesmerizing both of them are, and such great young actors. He also casts Lucas Hedges in this movie as one of the other guys in the Scouts, which is great sort of prediction of what was to come with Lucas Hedges, who's become such a talent in his own right. But these two kids are surrounded by such a brilliant cast of adults. Primarily for me, the great Edward Norton, who plays the Scoutmaster Randy Ward in this movie. And we meet him in a brilliant scene where he is walking some of the kids through the camp and checking out some of the issues of the day.
That's not a safe altitude. Why is it up so high? If someone falls from there, that's a guaranteed death.
Well, where would you have built it?
Lower.
So last year, as some regular listeners of Boy Party will know, I had the chance to meet Edward Norton. I ran an event at work with him, and it was such a joy to screen this scene from Moonrise Kingdom on the big screen in the lighthouse and to watch Edward Norton watching this scene. And anyone from Dublin will know that the lighthouse has a selection of membership cards with different stills from films on the cards. And one of those is a still from Moonrise Kingdom of Edward Norton and some of the kids peering into Sam's tent. And I suggested to one of the managers in the cinema that they should give Edward Norton one of these cards as he was leaving, which they hadn't occurred to them. And they did so. On the way out, they gave him one of the cards, and apparently he was really delighted and took it with him. So that was a lovely little Moonrise Kingdom themed thing that I got to be involved in. But Edward Norton's so good in this film. He's so warm, and again, perfect Wes Anderson actor who really straddles that line of kind of childish innocence and adult gravitas. And there's a lot of actors in Wes's movies who are really good at that. Someone like Luke Wilson is obviously really good at that. Owen Wilson, Jason Schwartzman, of course. But in this movie, I think that presence is Edward Norton. And then on the sort of more adult end of things, you have an incredible performance, really a once-off that someone has gotten this out of him from Bruce Willis.
It's been proven by history. All mankind makes mistakes. It's our job to try to protect you from making the dangerous ones if we can. You want some blood?
Who has never done anything else like this that I can think of. It's kind of the last great Bruce performance. Obviously now, very sadly, he has sort of retired. He is quite ill and isn't able to act anymore. He's so good in this, and he's so stiff but kind in a way that only Bruce Willis can pull off. And it's such a shame that more filmmakers like Wes Anderson didn't take advantage of his energy and of his brand around this era. I mean, obviously Rian Johnson gets something kind of interesting out of him in Looper, but I'm not a huge fan of that movie. I think this is really a one-off, great Bruce Willis performance. And it's a shame he didn't get awards attention for this, because it really is the last chance that the industry would have had to celebrate him in that way before he retired. But alas, we do have a great performance here. And then as the parents of Susie, you have you have regular Wes collaborators, Bill Murray and Frances McDormand, who are so good. They are these sort of lawyers who refer to each other as counselor at the end of every sentence and constantly giving suggestions and feedback to the police and the social services, and it's good fun seeing them banter.
Camp Ivanhoe, that's all the way across the other side of the island. You really think a 12-year-old boy could row this far in a miniature canoe?
Most likely not.
It is possible, Counselor.
I disagree, Counselor. It would take him 3 days at least.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm not going to argue about it.
Be that as it may, will you let me know if you see anything unusual?
No.
But the plot of this film is that you have these two young kids. Sam is a Boy Scout and he's orphaned, and Susie is sort of this frustrated preteen living in this very conservative household, listening to Benjamin Britten, and they meet backstage at a play.
What kind of bird are you?
I'm a sparrow. She's a dove.
No, I said, what kind of bird are you? I'm a raven.
And they start to write each other letters, and these letters are sort of brought up in a great flashback scene in the film, where they're writing back and forth to each other, and it's so lovely. And then they decide to run away together on this island, and you know the mission to run away together doesn't last very long, but it does involve this one very iconic, brilliant scene of them sort of trying to have their sensual moment, I suppose, on the beach after they set up their tent, which is odd but really fantastic. And they're caught. There's police involvement. There's social services, who is a character called Social Services, played by the great Tilda Swinton. And he's sent to live with Bruce Willis in this sort of weird mobile home, and she's sent back to her parents. But there is the film ends with a big chase up on the roof in the middle of a storm, and this is when Alexandre Desplat's incredible score really kicks into action. It's such a crucial part of this film. Is his music, and his collaborations with Wes Anderson have been so brilliant, and this is really one of his best.
I'm sorry. I cannot authorize that. Over.
Counselors, what's the legal perspective? Over.
In this state, I would litigate with extreme confidence.
I concur.
Open with Article 15 of the Codes of Civic Jurisdiction.
And also in this film, you got Jason Schwartzman, you've got Harvey Keitel, Bob Balaban. They all show up in small roles and contribute a lot as well. But it's just a really good tonal balance of kind of whimsical children's film aesthetics, you know, but also this like very heartfelt kind of all ages romance and yearning, and then also the sort of the crazy madcap slapstick Wes Anderson stuff. And it is sort of the perfect encapsulation of a lot of his themes and ideas and skills and virtues as a filmmaker. And to anyone who's seen one or two of his films that are more hyper stylized, like Grand Budapest or French Dispatch, and is cynical about him and thinks he's style over substance, I would really point them to watch or revisit Moonrise Kingdom, which I think is proves that that's not the case, and that the things that people accuse him of simply aren't true and are misunderstandings of his intentions completely. I mean, he's a filmmaker who puts such deep thought and effort into his screenplays. He's not just a visual stylist. He's a great screenwriter. And this film got an Oscar nomination for original screenplay, which is co-written by Roman Coppola. But it's an amazing script. It's a beautiful looking film. He gets great performances out of his actors, both adults and children. Sometimes adults playing children and children playing adults. But yeah, don't be a sneer about Wes Anderson. He's the best, and this is his best film. So that's Moonrise Kingdom, and that's the latest edition of the 25 for 25. Tune in soon for the next film on the countdown. Regular episodes of Boy Party drop every Tuesday at boypartypod.com. Thank you, and goodbye.